it's been a long time in the desert for Gator fans, man. I mean, we had a couple of okay years with Dan Mullen, and yeah, but enough of this 8-5 stuff, man.
That's look,
Yeah.
you usually get tagged with the more negative approach to it, more pessimistic of feel of the team. And again, it's not negative. You're just more you try to keep it honest. You try to keep it a buck with it. For you to say this is the most excited you've been, you're gonna be firing me up even more now.
Well, it's actually funny because that's one of the things about the magazine that always makes me get
Hmm.
excited about the season, because you sit there and you get to just start dreaming about what could be, right? And
Yeah.
and I've said this multiple times this offseason that every year I've been covering Florida, you've had to say, well, this group we have to project what this group is going to do, or we have to project that the offensive line is going to be better, or we have to project that this recruit is going to come in and contribute, or that the safeties are going to come in through the transfer portal and be good. There's not many places where you have to project, where if Florida gets the level of play that they got last year from the offensive line, right? If Jake Slaughter is able to be an All-American, if the guys they've got returning on the offensive line play like they did last year, you're getting above average play at a
Mm.
lot of different positions on the field. And so, that 4-game winning streak at the end, I mean, obviously a lot of that has to do with Lagway. A lot of that has to do with the defense really stepping up, especially on the defensive line. But even you just start looking at the way guys like Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton finished 2025 or 2024, and you go, that's like, we need to be consistent. Like, the team needs to be consistent. But if the team can be consistent and the team can stave off injuries, they're going to have an advantage at the quarterback position in just about every game. And you haven't been able to say that in Gainesville since 2020. And even then,
Right.
Alabama had a really good quarterback at that point, and Georgia had a pretty good quarterback at that point. So it wasn't.
I had a
It.
good.
Go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say it's a different time, right? There's a different
Yeah.
set of quarterbacks in the conference. I think that's the thing that gets me the most excited, is that it's not like you're going up against Mac Jones or Bryce Young at Alabama. It's not like you're going up against Matthew Stafford or even Carson Beck at Georgia. It's not like you're going up against Spencer Rattler at South Carolina. Like, Leonard Russell is a pretty good player, but it's not
There's an
it's not this
opening.
murderer's row of Heisman candidates. Yeah, even Jackson Dart's gone, right? So there's definitely an opening.
Yeah,
And
he's done.
honestly, I mean, Lagway might be extending that opening if he can play better this year than he did last year. He was pretty good last year too.
I had a great conversation with my buddy about this because he tries to kind of, I think, keep things in you know in perspective of like, look, like the hype, but he loves DJ, wants him to do as we all do, but he's trying to stay reserved of like, look, we got to look, if you look at his stats from last year, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, under 50% completion rate. There's some things that concerns you, right? He's like, we got to be kind of a little reserved on the hype. And I go, listen, kind of what you just said. I go, here's where the excitement comes from. It's the surrounding pieces. If all those things can do what kind of did last year, and then as you expect, grow a little bit, and just his ceiling is so much greater than any quarterback that Florida has had in quite some time, and what he can elevate them to, the mistakes aren't going to be that big of a deal. Because his ability to throw the ball the way that he does and can throw for 300 yards and throw for 3 touchdowns, he may make a couple of mistakes. He may throw a couple of interceptions, but his ability to overcome those is so much greater. Those are the things that we saw. And then the surrounding pieces are so much more established than we've had in the past. That's why the excitement is there. That's why when you see all these quarterback ratings and people are like, they're just all over DJ Lagway, there's so much more to it than just, there is that piece, but it's the surrounding pieces around him. I love that you backed it up without us even talking about it.
Well, I don't think you're wrong, but I think Lagway was way better than those stats that you cited last year.
I agree.
I think
I played to his
when you
game a little bit but I agree with you. I was, because that was how he was looking. So I try to play into that world and let him win that argument and beat him another way. But I agree. The stat thing to me was like, I could easily brush it to the side of like, it doesn't tell a whole story.
Well, the big thing for me with Lagway is that the thing that he does well, or that he showed that he does well last year, is the thing that you usually hope quarterbacks develop into. So, like, when you get man-to-man coverage, can you put the ball in a small window and hit your receiver streaking downfield? That's usually the last thing to come. And the reason it's the last thing to come is you got to have the stones to stand in the pocket and
Mm.
get drilled by some 250-pound defensive end coming around the corner and take that hit and get it downfield. Now, Lagway gets rid of the ball so quickly when he gets one-on-one coverage on the outside that he's not even getting hit in a lot of those circumstances. But even you think about the key play against LSU where he stepped up when the pressure was coming from around the corner and he hits Elijah Badger down there at the 1 yard line. Or you think about a couple of the other deep shots where he just knows he's got one-on-one on the outside, just throws it up and lets his receiver get it. But it's like, it's dead on accurate every time he throws that. That's something that usually develops over time, and you're sort of encouraging your quarterback to go downfield. You saw this in his high school tape last year before he came in, is that when they run flood concepts in high school, that's one of Napier's favorite play designs. When they would run flood concepts in high school, he was looking deep, intermediate, short. And you saw that last year.
Yeah.
Lagway looks deep, intermediate, short. Now, sometimes that gets him in trouble if the defense is playing more of a zone coverage and they take away those deep and intermediate routes. But he's going to learn, right? And one of the things that actually might be a blessing in disguise is
Mm.
you're typically only allowed a certain number of hours with your coaches. And the fact that he hasn't been able to throw because of his shoulder in the spring means that all of his hours were probably spent sitting there in the film room and sitting there watching reps where he could sit there and read the defense and figure out exactly what's coming. So there's a lot of stuff, and we cite it specifically in our magazine talking about drop eight coverage, how Billy Napier can scheme against drop eight coverage, those sorts of things. But I think one of the things that's going to happen is that Florida's going to be able to dictate to the defense what they're doing rather than the defense dictating to Florida what they need to do, right? So last year, I think Lagway was sort of looking to get rid of the ball quickly against zone defenses. I think, especially
Mm.
because he can trust his offensive line, Florida's going to have an opportunity to take some deep shots there that they probably didn't take last year just because they're going to be able to scheme him up. And Lagway is going to be able to identify what the defense is and where the holes are much better than he did last season.